Okay, so let's just start today's call. The first agenda item is the implementation needs. Lawrence, would you like to take on that?
Yeah, nothing much to give feedback on. The major challenge we've had so far is transmission of data from the field. That's mainly attributed to the SIM card issue, the SIM cards expiring. But we got a late approval from Dr. Kamano to allow Safaricom guys to shift their current prepaid lines to a postpaid arrangement.
Okay.
I've done an unofficial email.
Why would the SIM card expire? I just don't understand that one.
If you're on a prepaid plan, which means like you have to scratch a card and load airtime, usually has a lifespan of like 30 days. So if you do not make any calls using that line or top up airtime, it has to expire.
Oh, no activity. Okay.
Yes. So they gave us an option of a postpaid option called Enterprise Data Plan. And that's the one we want to move to. So that's going to get rid of that problem of expiries.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are hoping it's going to be effective this coming week, and then we'll have the data streaming in more steadily.
Okay. So, so it's called the Enterprise options.
Yeah, Enterprise postpaid Enterprise data bundles.
Okay. How about actually I have a questions on the screening form. So on the referral question,
yes,
refer to the CDM facility. Petrolina mentioned that she discussed with you that it should be the same facilities, locations as AMRS Productions. However, I still need like a limited list because I'm sure not all the facilities are CDM facilities.
I agree with you. We'll have to narrow down to the ones that only have CDM activities in.
Yeah, so I think that is the other piece holding on. So there's like two pending items on the screening form. One information we need is that updated list for CDM facilities only for the referral question. And then another location list for the committee units, which is for the encounter location. So that's the only two pieces that information we need from you guys before we have Simon to work on it. Do you think you can help us to get those information early next week?
Actually, there's a list Tor shared on email, which he said he had sent to Miencha. So I actually sent to him, and I think he didn't quite get it right. We hadn't refined that list, but this morning I've met Joan. We have come up with a comprehensive list of 119 community units and around 55 facilities, which we're going to use to cross-check and make sure they all exist in MRS. So I think after this call, I can meet Tor. We finalize on the facilities and then CDM facilities, and then also send in the list of community units, which is comprehensive. It's already done.
Okay, yeah, just want to FYI, the community units now are, and the general MRS locations are handled by both Miencha's and Petrolina's team. I think it's transitioning to Petrolina's team. So it will be good to have both of them, both of the team involved.
Yes, agreed. I think Boniface had done an email this week asking for a meeting, for us to have a meeting on Monday. So I think we'll discuss that all together.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. I think, and do you have any updates from the implementations experience, except the SIM card issue, any other issues you guys encounter?
Not really. It's just been a little bit slow in terms of the CHWs trying to find the lost to follow up patients. So I'm actually thinking if the sooner we have once the SIM card issue is sorted out and we have the dynamic cohorts up and running, we could actually pilot out with one area and see how how the general workflow picks up. So like some sites, they just find that they can't do much. They're actually not that active out there.
So
and I think
in order for us to take advantage of the cohort, we also need some data points in order to capture the client's information, clients in the cohort list. So I think really we really need to finish up the screening form.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So any other comments or questions regarding implementation needs? Anyone? So if not, Win, are you ready to talk about the versioning work in progress?
Sure, Anna.
Thanks, Win.
So today I will demo just a work in progress on how I plan to do the versioning. So I think a few stuff that we want to have inside the form is potentially displaying the version number for the form templates. And then I think we also want to submit the form template to the form processor. So at least when the form template get processed and then sent to the server, we can see what is the version number for the form template. I will do a brief demo of what I have right now. So if there is any issues or any comment and feedback, you're more than welcome to send email to me or ping me.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So can you guys see my screen, or is it too small?
We can see it. We can see all your application.
Should I make it bigger?
Yeah. I think maybe share. Okay.
Is it big enough?
I can see it.
Okay. So what I created is I have this folder, and then using some JavaScript, I can automate some of the tasks when we want to create form. I'm using what they call grunt to automate the process. In a way, it's similar to Maven, I think. So, for example, I can have these are a few available tasks that I created, and then you can execute all this command in conjunction with grunt. So, for example, grunt default. But now this one will start up an application server in localhost 9001. And then if I go to that location, I will get the list of all our forms. And then if you click on one of the form, you can see how the form will look like. A little bit, it should be pretty close with how the form will get rendered on the device. So, and then if you, for example, fill the form or pick the selection, and then you press save, you can see what the form data that gets generated, and then this form data will eventually be sent to the server, or it will be saved locally on your device. So pressing save will not trigger the validation, but if you say submit, all the validation will be executed, and then you can see all the missing validation. For example, all this field is required, and then this field is required, and so on. So I'm hoping this will help our form development process, so you can easily view how the form potentially look like in the device. Any questions so far?
Not for me.
Okay.
I just wonder if Simon or Shrita have comment.
No comment is good. Just leave it that way. Okay. So
I have a question.
Oh. Okay, go ahead, Srita.
What are you using for the? Are you using Express, or is it just like, how are you?
This is I'm using Node.js. So Node.js, and then I'm using also Grunt to automate the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Will.
Yeah.
I guess what Shweta is asking is, what is the web server there? Is it implemented in, like, are you using the Express module or?
No. This is Node.js. So maybe I will show you guys how it works a little bit. Let me just remove everything first. So all the Node.js modules will be stored in this Node modules. It's not going to be version, so I will remove this one first. So what in the repository, what you will end up with is the grunt file. This is where the automation is coded, all JavaScript, and then the package JSON explain explain what kind of node module that we will need. So the requirement to run this one is you have Node installed. In Mac, you can just say brew install Node. And then in Ubuntu, I think you should say sudo apt-get install Node. And then once you install Node, Node will come with a tools called npm. npm is Node Package Manager. So using this npm, you can install multiple Node library. In our use case, the Node library required for this project is listed in package.json. So you can see this project requires grun, blah blah blah, grun whatever, Lodash, and then the other. And then to get you up and running, eventually you will check out this project. I will update the mUzima form project eventually, and then you do npm install. This one will download all the required project, and then once it's done, it will show all this nice printout of what library you just installed, and then you can just say run. Just say run, I think, and then this one will start your node server, and then you can just browse to localhost, that one. If you're into, I mean, this one, when you create the form, I don't think you need to know much about Node, but you probably just need to know how you want to program your form. If you're interested in Node, I can give you a quick recap on what you can do. Any other question? If no, I will continue on. Just like I showed earlier, we have a few things available here. So generate, template, and then version. All the version number will be stored inside this version folder in a file called version.json. This one will list out all your form and also all your the form file name and then the version number for that file name. I will probably update this a little bit, the structure, but it's not going to be major eventually. So, for example, if I say if I don't have anything here yet, and then in the few tasks that I already defined, you can list out or update or set the version number for the form. So, for example, run version. So version will define what kind of command available. Oops. Oh no! What did I do? It was working. Give me a few seconds.
Demo is always like this. It's just especially live.
So this is the JavaScript code that I have inside. Probably one of the module. Connect, copy from. Oh, okay. expected time of input. It's not even. It was working earlier just now. Maybe I should do that. There you go. There you go. Sorry about that. So the version must be at least initialized with valid JSON empty. So for example, in the version, you just say version, it will tell you, please select specific version command to execute. Format for the version command name. Available command name are list, bump, validate, update. So if, for example, you say run version list, this will not show you anything because we don't have any version information. So on the first run, you should say run version update. So update will read all your HTML form. So it looks for everything end with .html and then assign 0.0.0 as the version number because it's the first time. So it says updating list of template files and the version number, and then once it's done, it will print out done. So now you can say run version list. So you will have version 0 for every form. Now, for example, I want to update the version number for one particular form or any form. You can say run version bump. So bump means bump this form version number forward. And then you say enter. And this one will give you like, what do you call it? A wizard type of thing, but everything it's in the terminal still. So bumping version. So which type of version you want to do. So you can say revision, simple fixes. So the changes will be from, for example, from 1.0.0 to 1.0.1. So it will increment the revision part from the version code, and then minor will move it 1.0.0 to 1.1.0. Major will go from 1.0.0 to 2.0.0, and then you can specify custom version. So for example, we want to bump just the revision because we just do simple fixes. And then this one will say I mean, the message should be changed probably. What form should get the new version? So press space to select. So you can scroll and then find your form. This one is, what do you call it? Looping. So it's a circular up and down. So you can, if you look around, you can always press up and down to find your form. For example, I want to bump the VIA form, and then I want to bump the CHW, and then we say enter, and then processing, and then it will do it pretty quickly. So it says bumping revision version of CHW to 001, bumping PIA to 001. Now, if you say version list, you can see the PIA is now on 001. CHW is now on 001 as well. So you can repeat this one. For example, you want to change the major version now for breast cancer. If you don't specify anything, it will say, oh, please specify. So there is some sort of validation in there. For example, we want to do teleconsultation. Now your teleconsultation is in 1.0.0. And then you can also do specific version number. You specify custom, and then it will ask you what specific version would you like. So the format for this one is going to be the one that's shown on the first one, custom specify custom version. So it's going to be question mark dot question mark dot question mark. So it's a.b.c in number. So if you say c.d.e, it will reject this because it's not a valid one. So you can say 1, 2, 3, for example. And then it will ask you which form should get this version number. So say I want to do this for costing form. Now if you list again, your costing form is 1, 2, 3. That is for versioning. Also create a way to manipulate the template. This is similar to the version. It will just tell you what command you have for template. So running template list, the template list will print out what template you have. So the template is the basic form where you can start developing your new form. For example, you want to create a new form, you need some sort of baseline where you can just move forward from. So for now, we have the encounter and then registration. So for example, if you want to create a new form, you will say grunt generate. Generate will ask you a few questions. The first one is, what is your form name? I will create form ABC. And then which template should be basic template. Maybe the wording could be changed. Basic template to be cloned. So I will say this is I will clone encounter for ABC form. And then we'll ask you for the version. So I will just say 0.0.1. And now if you do grunt version list, my ABC form is there at the bottom. You can also say grunt version validate. Validate will check if the form is still there and if the version number is valid or not. So it says everything is valid. Now, if, for example, if I remove my new ABC form, and then I run this validate again, it will say, oh, I have a record of ABC form, but I couldn't find the file, so it will be marked as invalid. And then For the next step, I think what I'm planning to do is if you display the form on the browser when you develop the form, if you go to your form, for example, in probably at the bottom of the form or at the top right or somewhere here, we can display the template version number, so we can easily track down which template version number being used currently. And then,
hey Wayne, is it correct that the form version could be different from the form templates version number?
yeah, so the form version that we have in OpenMRS, I think it potentially going to be different because as we evolve the template, the template could be moving forward faster than the form that we have in OpenMRS. For example, you will change the version number in OpenMRS when you, for example, update the structure of the form itself. But for this one, for the version of the form template, I think we should increase the version number as soon as we change something, so we can keep track of, okay, from version this, for example, from version 0.0.1 to 0.0.2, what I change is the validation, for example. So we can tell like the changes that we did, and
yeah, I wonder, can we make some kind of agreement that maybe the first two numbers are the same with the OpenMS form version, but then the last number would be the kind of like similar to the build number, so it's easier to figure out which one is which.
Yeah, we definitely can do that, or we can just do a dash build or something similar to that. Yeah.
I just want to avoid confusion.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's all I have. So, and then in the future, I think for the next one, I will try to check the Git status. So you cannot have the same version number. So you cannot increment the version number without committing your changes. That way you don't
need to keep track.
Yeah, you don't randomly just increment the version number until you commit your changes.
Nice.
Any question?
Sounds like a no.
Yes. No question. Okay. I think that's it for the demo from me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wayne. We just thought like versioning very simple, but obviously you spend a lot of time on this as well. So next item is the discussion about for the how we can support collecting household through mUzima. Simon, I just wonder if you I'm sorry, I was talking the whole time. I don't know if you guys heard me. My mouse like get crazy. Sometimes it mutes itself. Simon.
I had you mention someone and then you went off.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I just wonder if you got some information from PXCT yet, or you want to do it next week.
I can speak a little about it.
Okay, sure.
So I talked to Alfio because I hear some information how PHCT works, and I was able to collect just a basic overlook of how they use ODK to collect household data. So from my understanding, they have an application ODK, I think, which is many people know about it, and they have one form that is they have one form used by the providers who will visit households and collect all information, register all members of a household and also collect extra observation data. Now, ODK has no direct connection with MRS like we do in mUzima, where you can synchronize data. And therefore, how they are able to do the connection, they will collect data in a household by filling the form, one form that will register all persons in the household and the observations. And then at the end of the day, they will copy data from a specific folder in the phone and then upload it to the MRS server. Now, on the MRS side, there is a household module and there is a mobile form entry module. I think the two modules are related, but what they use is the mobile form entry module. So once they upload data from ODK to the mobile form entry module, that module will now process the data and save it in respective tables. A question could be, how do they now register the relationships between the different persons to indicate they belong to one household? Now, on the server side, in MRS, there is a household table that is able to track all households. That is, each household has its specific ID. And then there is a household membership table. This household membership table works like the way the cohort member table works. That is, it will store all persons and their respective household IDs where they belong. And this table, to store the persons, it will actually store the ID. I think it's the UUID that points to the persons table. So that in that table you can find, for example, if a household has 5 members, then this table will have 5 UUIDs for the different people, and the 5 people will have the same household ID. Yeah. So basically, what I mean is that now they have an ODK. It has one form. This form will be used to collect data per household, and then they will manually pick the data which is stored in XML form from the Android phone and have it uploaded into MRS. So I don't know whether that makes sense or somebody has a question.
Thank you so much, Simon. I think it makes sense.
Okay. Now, maybe some of the challenges, one of the challenges I've seen is that because the lack of synchronization between ODK and MRS, when the providers will not be able to search if they are collecting data in a household. It's not possible for them to search MRS to find whether this person has been registered before or not, and therefore they will only rely on if they still have data previously collected on the ODK, and therefore they can now check in that data and see whether a certain person was registered or not. But it's not possible to do that direct searching. Yeah, so that's it for me for now.
Thanks, Simon. Burke, do you want to help us to understand better about how to expand the cohort and instead of saying that having household is just like one type of a cohort and then expand it to be like cohort observation, cohort encounter, things like that.
Yeah, I think it's not worth like derailing, or it's not really mUzima's job to build all that out, but I think it's well worth being aware of it, and it would be nice if the needs going on for HCT and programs like that in AMPATH, as well as mUzima's needs, are represented and being covered in that cohort module. The main thing is that a household is really a collection of people, and that's what a cohort is. And so rather than having households in one place and then cohorts in another, the vision for OpenMRS is that we enhance cohorts so that they can also serve the need for tracking households. And so the assumption, I think, would be for mUzima's needs would be at the time that you're gathering household data and storing it, hopefully something like the cohort module would come along and provide a service where you could easily just store those data, any encounters or observations with households as cohort encounters and cohort observations. And I think between now and then, I think that it would just be nice that if you're building in functionality within mUzima to try to kind of meet near-term needs, it would be nice to align or be close to the same model, so that transitions, like transitioning to that, will be easier.
So if we adopt the model of using cohorts to collect, let's say, cohort observations and kind of things like that, what would be the how it's going to impact in terms of like data collection parts, especially for the form, the mobile form. We're just not sure like what mUzima need to consider, and then
yeah, so at the simplest, it would be if you're coding in functionality to so that you could support households, would be to think of that as not building in household functionality, but rather building in the capability to collect data on groups of people, and the fact that it's a household would be driven by that particular type of group that's being data is being collected for. So maybe the only near-term use case would be, well, we're going to collect household data, so you would make your cohort type would be a household, and any time where you were showing that to the user of like, we need you to specify the members of this group, you would use the word, you'd use the name for that cohort type. It's basically rather than coding in a lot of functioning that's very household specific and then finding out that well, why can't we use this for a treatment group or following, why can't we use mUzima to collect data about a study group or something that isn't a household?
So I just want to clarify, is it correct that the household that the cohort you mentioned actually is different from what mUzima currently refer to as a cohort? Because I think most of us just strictly tie the cohorts through the cohort builder and things like that. It's like two different things, right?
No. The cohort is just a group of people, and that's how you've been using it.
Mm-hmm.
What the point of merging or changing from the household module to a cohort module is to say, let's be able to gather encounters and data on those groups of people. So a group of people might be the list of people that you need to go see for your that day for HCT, or a group of people might be the people in that household, and it's the same mechanism in terms of defining groups of people. It's just one type is just would be just a patient list, and the other type would be this is a household.
Yeah, so let's say that we create a cohort from the server, and then we download, let's say, 5 members into the mobile device, and then as the community health worker go to the field and then want to register another 10 people to the same cohort. Right now, there's no way for us saying that, oh, I want to add these 10 people to the same cohort. I think that's the one that I'm not sure how we're supposed to do. Unless after we create like those 10 patient information and sync back to the server, and then in the server updated the cohort members, and then we would sync back to the device, and then those would show up to the same cohort list.
Yeah, I don't know if you're talking about adding those people to the same cohort, or if you're talking about
the same cohort. Yeah. To the same cohort.
You're going to add 5 more people to that same list of people you need to see?
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean that's just the functionality of being able to manipulate a cohort. I mean that's not. I mean that maybe there's not a functionality now to do that, but that would be.
So something that we need to think about. Shrita, do you have questions or comments?
Yes, I do. So, Burke, correct me if I'm wrong. Understood is that you're saying that just like we have cohorts wherein we group people according to certain category, we will also create a household module where all these people belong to a certain household, and that's the common functionality they have. So are you saying we can use, instead of creating a separate household module, we should use the cohort module to create households? Is that what you're saying? Can they be used interchangeably? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, what the Summer Code project is doing in part is saying, let's take the household module and convert it into a cohort module so that it has the capability of, the same functionality you want for households in terms of being able to enter data at the household level and track who the members are. That's not unique to households. We want to do that with a lot of different groups of people. And so the idea would be instead of you guys doing a lot of effort creating a household module and then finding out that OpenMRS has created a cohort module and is urging people to store all their household information there, would be to say, what are the requirements, what are the needs of mUzima in terms of storing household data? Let's make sure that cohort module will support, meet those needs. And then you could still, in the near term, say, well, we just need a place to store these data, so we're just going to store them and we'll make our own module to store them. But it would be nice to be aware of what's going on with creating cohorts to handle not just, meaningless, or kind of just lists of people with no definition to it. But the fact that we're working to make cohorts more powerful within OpenMRS so that you can define and say this list of people is actually the type of list it is. It's the household, and so I don't want to derail and say, okay, I'll work on collecting household data in mUzima depends on all this cohort stuff being built out. I don't think that's fair to you guys or to Ampath to say to create that dependency, but I think it would be helpful to be aware of the direction we're going within OpenMRS, and as you're thinking about how do we store household data, think of it. Okay, how do we store data about household cohorts?
Right.
Burke, is this module going to be supported by the core OpenMRS?
Yeah, I mean, my hope would be that eventually it would, because if you look at FHIR, they actually observations, they have a subject, and that subject can be a patient or it can be a group of patients. And while I don't see in any kind of near or even distant place where we would merge our allow observations to be collected against groups of people or patients, because that would break all existing code that assumes all observations and encounters are about patients. I would like to get us to a point where we have encounters and observations, but we also have cohort encounters and cohort observations, and then essentially we could store data about groups of people as easily as we can store data about an individual person.
Yeah, so this could potentially replace the household module, because in a way it's works similar.
Yeah, I mean that's literally what the project, the Google Summer project, is doing, is taking the household module, starting with that, and adapting it. It's very close. I mean, the household module already does household encounters and household observations that are modeled after patient encounters and patient observations. So when we were creating the household module, we were already kind of following that pattern. But the notion is that household is a very definite need, but it's really one use case for collecting data about groups of people.
Yeah.
And we already knew in the household module that we would have, there's not one definition of a household. So we were already prepared for the notion as we were building, as Jonah was building that out, to be able to have different definitions, like different programs or different studies might define household different ways. And so even as the household module was being built, the notion of that household type, or what the household definition, was built into the design. And so really this is it's for all intents and purposes it's like just taking the word household, the term household, and substituting in the word cohort, and it's not too much different than that.
So, Burke, one thing that if we adopt the collecting more information about cohorts, we also, just for Ampath purpose, we also need to somehow do we need to consider to convert the current household data back, and then transform into the new cohort space? Because if not, those information will be everywhere. That's something that I don't know if you have thought about that.
Yeah, so you're saying you already have household data.
Yeah.
And is it like a lot of HCT things where it's on 60 different servers?
Yeah. Probably not in our lifetime. They need us to convert. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea would be, it's not a major conversion because the cohort observations and cohort encounters will be almost identical to household encounters and household observations. The only difference would be that instead of assuming that cohort's a household, you would set a type of household.
Okay. So I know we run out of time. I just want to ask you guys what would be the next steps then. Is there anything we need to prepare from mUzima side work?
From my standpoint, I don't want to come along and put some dependency on the cohort module succeeding and mUzima having to, sitting around waiting for that to happen. I just wanted you guys to be aware of the direction we're going. So, for example, if you start coding out things to support households in mUzima in the Android, you might stop and think, well, wait, instead of creating, creating a bunch of code around households, let's create code around managing groups of people, collecting data about a cohort, and the initial type of cohort we'll be collecting data on will be a household.
I see.
So just being aware of that and kind of seeing where the design is going for the cohort module would hopefully help if you started creating functionality to build it so it's a little bit future-proofed.
Okay. Wayne, any more thoughts on that one?
No, I really like the approach with this one. I think this one, we definitely should think about it, but because the data structure is pretty similar, I think we can still move ahead with household module for now, but I think we should keep this module in mind if we design anything around household module.
Yeah, it's just if you're creating new code around households, if you can think of it, and I'm happy to help have conversations to think through that. But if you're for example going to add household functionality into the Android code, it would be nice to think about that as doing it as collecting data about cohorts, and then that can be spit out and end up going into the household module for now. But it's also helpful as you guys are going through the very pragmatic and real steps of collecting and kind of moving those data around to make sure that what you guys need and what you're doing in terms of collecting data about households will be, those needs in terms of what types of data you're collecting will be met by the cohort module.
Yep, agree.
Okay. Okay, guys. Sorry, it's a little bit late. I think we need to wrap this up. Let's just continue through the mailing list. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend if you're done.
Hey, cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.